Ashley Brown is about to take the stage. She has been a stylist for nearly 2 decades. She's a Sandy ambassador, Mizani artist, a salon owner herself. And she has been just promoting inclusivity with different texture types in our industry. And I love to hear her teach. She is such an educator who teaches from a point of clarity and makes every tip and technique so approachable. So let's welcome Ashley Brown.
Hi, thanks for the intro, Katie. I appreciate you. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Super excited to be here.
Let's have you take it away, girl. I know you have so much to unpack and teach, so it is yours.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. So everybody go ahead and drop in the chat where you're from. I got my chats up. I'm super excited to see where everybody's joining from. As Katie mentioned, today we're going to talk about adding volume to curly hair. So whether that's adding volume with a curly cut or adding volume with styling, that's what we're going to get into. So first off, I just have a couple before and afters. So a couple mannequins. This is the lovely amber pivot point mannequin that you can get on samvia.com. So here you can see is her wash and go, okay? So this is just wash, a little bit of leave-in conditioner, air dried, and you see how flat she is, right? Well, now here you can see how much volume she has. So her volume was created not just with a haircut, the air cut, but also with styling techniques. So here's kind of your before and after, and we have some fun images to show you as well as we get into it. So we're going to focus on finding solutions for different texture types. So everybody go ahead and drop in the chat box Aircut, because that's what we're getting into, the Mizani Aircut. And I see some people are joining from Seattle, from Florida, from Canada. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. All right, so here we have our lovely mannequin. Now half of her head is already cut in the aircut. So you can see she's got some nice air pockets in here. She's got some lift and some volume, but we're gonna go over tips and tricks of how to give her even more volume with styling. So we're going to start off with her actual air cut though. All right, awesome. Everybody's dropping air cut in the chat box. I appreciate that. All right, so this is the side that has not been cut yet. So you can see the difference between how this is much more flat than this side is. There's not as much air going on in here. So we're going to focus on the top and side of her hair because that is essentially where a lot of the volume can be created. So different texture types have different challenges. So I'm going to go ahead and have us bring up the slide of the texture key because the Mizani texture key is going to show you all the 8 different texture types. So if everybody wants to take a moment and just take a quick screenshot of this, we're focusing on texture type 4 and 5. So curly to very curly. Okay, so curly to very curly. Hello, hello, welcome everybody. I see people still joining here. Awesome. So we can pull that slide down. All right, so curly to very curly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just section her off here. Now to do the Mizani Aircut, we work in zones, okay? So we work in 7 different zones. So everybody drop zones in the chat box. Now I'm very carefully using just my fingers to gently part the hair, okay? So very carefully sectioning it into different zones. And later on in the class, we do have a slide that we're going to pull up to show the different zones. But for now, I'm just going to get going so you can kind of see exactly where I'm going with this aircut today. So I'm just sectioning her hair. Now there are 7 different zones. The first zone is going to be around the face and the back of the hairline. That is called our frame. All right. So that's the first zone. Now we're mainly going to be working in zone 5 and in zone 7. Okay. So we're going to be working in zone 4 and 5 and zone 7. So kind of the sides and top, because like I said, right here, we call this the canopy. This is what's going to give you the most volume when you're actually cutting the hair to give it volume, okay? So I'm sectioning my zones here, and I'm just very gently just grabbing my clips here so that I can make sure my dry section clips from Samvia so I can make sure I have everything nice and clean and parted. So this is what we're going to be working on today. All right, so we have our zone 4 and 5 is on the sides, and then our zone 6 is on the top. So we just have this parted. It might look kind of messy, but that's okay. We always say when you're working on the Mizani Aircut, you want your parts to almost look like your beauty school updos because you don't want to disrupt the curl. So everybody drop in the chat box, no disruption, okay? We don't want to disrupt the curl because we want to see how it naturally lives, all right? So we have our frame here, which I already cut. So the frame is going to be our guide, okay? So here's our frame, and that's going to be our guide. I already cut this because I wanted them to be balanced, okay? So from that, I'm going to take a diagonal back section, all right? A diagonal back section, clip this up out of the way again. And this is going to be my first section. All right. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to be over directing this hair. I can see my frame underneath. That's my guide. Okay. So I'm over directing the hair. I see my frame underneath, and I'm going to be using the slide glide. Okay. So I'm going to use my Sambia Classic Series shear. These are like my favorite shears ever in life. So I suggest you use those. So this is what I'm going to be doing to do my slide glide. Okay. So I'm prepping my section with Mizani 25 Miracle Milk. All right. And I should say, this is just like a little inside look into the Mizani Aircut, all right? The Mizani Aircut is a systematic approach to cutting textured hair. So you might say, Ashley, what does that mean, a systematic approach? Like, why would I need a systematic approach per se to cutting textured hair? Well, I'm here to tell you. So a systematic approach is going to allow you to recreate the cut. All right. So what that means is when your guest comes in and you give her this beautiful aircut, you can create a you can create a cut card, okay? Just like you have a color formula and her formula is outlined on her profile card for her color formula, you can also create a cut card and write down what you did in each zone. So for her, we would write down in zone 5, we're doing slide glide, all right? So you can see I gently over directed the hair forward. I can see my guide underneath. Okay, I'm gonna turn this so you can see. So over directing forward, my guide is right here where my shears are. So you can see the hair that's hanging over that. And then I'm just gonna grab my section here, pull it up so where it's comfortable to cut. All right, make sure we can see what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to rock inwards and outwards with my Classic Series shear, okay? So I'm rocking in, out, okay? So this rocking motion, I'm curving as I close my shears, and that is gonna be what creates the air in the hair. So once I have my section cut, I'm pulling it forward, over directing where it was before, and whatever loose hairs are in here, you're not gonna be able to see them on camera, but there are some loose hairs that are still in my hand. I'm cutting those away, okay? So again, same thing. So I divided this section into 2 subsections. So I just cut my first one. My second one is right here. Same thing, over directing it. I can see my guide right underneath. All right, my guide is right where my shears are. Make sure everybody can see that. And I'm just going to come from underneath, lock my fingers in where my guide is, and then I'm going to pull it up to where it's comfortable to cut. So wherever it's comfortable to cut for you, you can move it as long as you have your fingers locked in. So everybody type in the chat box, lock in fingers. And then I'm going to come in, and again, I'm curving as I close to cut that hair and create air in the hair. Now, if you have some pieces that are curling over your fingers like I do, you can kind of flick them up so that they stand up a little better, and then go back in and curve as you close, okay? Now, same thing, I'm going to cross-check by pulling my fingers out where I grabbed my section from. So I'm going back to my over-directed forward, pulling my fingers out, and I'm just checking, okay, I got some loose hairs in there. I'm going to cut those off, okay? All right. So I'm just going to show you with my fingers the motion that I'm doing. So once I find my section, I over-direct, find my guide that's underneath for my zone 1, and then I'm going to hold my fingers nice and tight, lock in that guide, and then when I'm pulling it up to wherever it's comfortable, I'm going in with my shears, okay? And I'm opening and closing, okay? And I really just use like the first inch and a half of my shears. I'm not using the middle because that would be too hard to control. So just with the tip of my shears, I'm opening, closing, okay? All right, lock the fingers in. I love it. Thank you for dropping that in the chat. So once I finish this section, I don't have to cross-check because when I pulled forward and cut the loose hairs, that was my cross-check, okay? So next section, same thing. I'm prepping the hair again with our Mizani 25 Miracle Milk. Show you what that looks like one more time. This is a really great leave-in detangler conditioner. It's for all different texture types. So anybody from texture type 1 all the way up to 8 can use this product. You can use it as a leave-in detangler. You can use it as a curl refresher. It's a really great product to use. Anybody can use it. It's one of my favorites. We literally sell so much of it at the salon. All right, so I'm just separating my curls because I don't want any clumped curls. So put in the chat box, no clumps, all right? Because again, the aircut is a systematic approach to cutting textured hair and creating air in the hair, softness in the hair. One point of difference about the Aircut is that you can wear your hair straight or you can wear it curly. So oftentimes with curl cuts, when you go to wear your hair straight, you might have some choppy layers in there. It might not be cohesive. Well, with the Mizani Aircut, you don't have that problem because we're creating softness and air at the ends. So any clumped curls, I'm just gently separating. And now again, like I said, I have two different sections here, two different subsections. So I'm taking my first subsection, over directing it forward. All right. I can see my guide underneath here. And I'll bring this closer so you can see the hair that I'm cutting. So you can actually see the heavier weight line there. That is my guide underneath. All right. So I'm following that line and you can see the hair that's falling over it. And I'm taking my hands. My palm is always facing her head with the slide glide. So when I'm working on this side of her hair, depending on if you're left or right-handed, I'm right-handed, but whether you're lefty or righty, the palm is always facing her head. Okay. His or her head. So I'm in here, my palm is facing the head. If I'm working on this side, all right, so if I'm working on this side, I'm coming in this way. So my palm is always going to be facing my guest's face, all right? So back to it. So we're over directing, all right? So once I find my guide, drop in the chat box. What am I supposed to do? I'm over directing, I see my guide. What am I doing with my fingers once I find my guide? Go ahead and drop that in the chat box. I love that everybody dropped no clumps. Clumps can create hard lines. We want to keep everything soft, so definitely no clumps. So I have my guide underneath here, right? So I found my guide, and what am I doing with my fingers? Yes, lock it in. Thank you so much. Lock it in. So I have my guide locked in. Once it's locked in, again, I can move it around to wherever it's comfortable to cut, all right? For this, I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. So I have my guide locked in. It's in a comfortable place for me to cut. And then I'm going to curve as I close. Go ahead and drop that in the chat box. Curve as you close. And you can see I'm just kind of gently moving my hand. I'm moving my wrist and my arm rather, just to curve as I close. All right. Move that hair out of the way. That's the hair we just cut. And you can see I have nice, soft texture here. All right. Let me move it up to the white so you can kind of see the softness that's in there. If I have a few loose hairs, again, I can just take my shears and curve those up a little bit. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to curve as I close just to clean that up. Okay. Now go ahead and drop any questions you have about this technique. Again, this is called the slide glide. Okay. The Mizani Aircut has 5 different glides that we use to create the air in the hair. All right. Each glide is for something different. So this glide in particular, the slide glide, this is actually very similar to point cutting. All right. But if anybody's tried to point cut curly hair, what can sometimes happen? If you're going in there and you're taking your shears and you try to go in and point cut curly hair or textured hair, even wavy hair sometimes, drop in the chat box if you've ever had any challenges trying to point cut curly hair. All right. So I'm bringing that up. I got my guide locked in. And I'm coming back in and I'm curving as I close, curving as I close. All right. So just curving as I close. I'm going to clean this up to make sure that I have those little hairs there. And I'm going to curve as I close. And I feel like I have a little rogue guy right here. So I'm actually just going to flip my hands the other way and come from the other side and curve as I close. All right. So either side I come from, I'm making sure I'm curving to create that air. All right, I'm just going to cut those loose hairs out. Awesome. So I have my zone 4 done because again, on the sides here, these are the support. So this is going to be your zone 4 and 5. So I have my zone 4 done and I have some nice air that has been created in the hair here. So let's move it over to the white wall so you can see this. All right, so we have some nice air going on here. We have some lift. It's lifting away from her face. That's what we want. Janet does not want a bunch of heavy clumped curls suffocating her face here. She wants it to be nice and open and voluminous, okay? So again, our cross check is when we pull it forward and cut those loose hairs, okay? Each glide we do with the Mizani Aircut, we do cross check. So whether we are doing slide glide, whether we are doing upward glide, exterior glide, we have all these different glides that we use to create the Mizani Aircut. We are always going to cross check, okay? All right, so next section, or next zone rather, is our zone 6, okay? So I'm just going to pull out my little foam head so you can see exactly what I'm referring to here. So we have this beautiful foam head, and she is displaying all of our zones. So as I mentioned, we just got done with zone 4. Okay, so again, zones 4 and 5, those are our support. And now we're in zone 7. Okay, I think I might have accidentally said zone 6 because I was thinking about the back, but we're actually working in the front, which is zone 7. So zone 7 is going to be our canopy. So everybody write canopy in the chat box. All right. So zones 4 and 5, that's what we just worked on with zone 4. And now we're going to zone 7, which is our canopy. So in the canopy, that is where a lot of the volume lives or can potentially live for most texture types. So again, bringing our before model here, or our after model that we showed at the beginning of the class, you can see in her zone 7, all of the volume and where it's living. Okay, so this is her zone 7 right in here. And we created lots of volume, not just with products, but also with the air in the hair and how we cut it. Okay. All right. Thank you for dropping canopy in there. So for this, we're going to take a horseshoe section. So if I was working on all of zone 7, which is right at the crown, or I'm sorry, right at the canopy at top, on the top here, if I was working in all of zone 7, I would take an actual horseshoe section around her fringe and around the sides of zone 5 and 4. Okay, but we're only working on half of the head because, as I mentioned, this side has already been air cut. We're going to work on some styling techniques for this side of Janet. So I'm going to go ahead and take half my horseshoe, and I'm being very gentle with the hair. Okay, when your guest comes in for her Mizani Aircut, she wants to come here. She wants to come with their hair washed, a little bit of leave-in conditioner. We strongly suggest the 25 Miracle Milk because it's very, very light and gentle. Washed, conditioned, a little bit of the 25 Miracle Milk, and air dried. Why do you think it might be so important for a guest to come in with their hair air dried if they have curly, wavy, zigzag coil? If they have textured hair, why might that be important? All right, so I have my half a horseshoe, and I'm going to use some more of my 25 Miracle Milk. Just a couple sprays. I emulsify it in my hands, and then I'm gently going to just put it on the hair that I've just parted out. Okay, just very gently. And go ahead and drop in the chat box. Why would it be important for your guests to come in with their hair in its natural state? All right, let's see. Natural pattern. Yes, Simone, you got it. It's super important for us as stylists to be able to see our guest's natural pattern because products can change the natural pattern of the hair. They can change the texture of the hair. And if your guest comes in and they have a bunch of products in their hair, then their texture, it's not a true vision of what their texture actually is and what it's actually doing. Okay. All right. So we're in zone 7. I just parted out my section, the half a horseshoe. I just separated my curls because, again, we don't want any clumped curls. Clumped curls create hard lines, and we want to keep everything very soft, open, and airy. Okay. So for our first section of zone 7, we're actually going to do the same thing. We're going to do slide glide. So everybody drop slide in the chat box. So we're going to do slide glide. So I'm actually going to see my fringe that I created here underneath. My zone 1 has my actual guide here. And then I'm just going to separate this because I want to take subsections that are small enough that I have control. Okay. So I'm just separating that section. I'll show you from the side here. So my guide is right underneath here. Okay, so that is my guide. That's where my fringe is. It's kind of coming down, softly layered around her face. All right, so I'm literally going to lock my fingers in right where my guide is at. Okay, so I'm locking my fingers in where my guide is. Once I have them locked in, I'm pulling it up where it's comfortable to cut. Okay, I can kind of clean up this hair a little bit to make sure it's not in my way. And you can see I have quite a bit to cut off. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to curve as I close, okay, to create some air in the hair. All right, so I'm curving as I close. So again, the slide glide is very similar to point cutting, but as I mentioned, it can be really challenging to point cut curly hair. When you go in and you try to point cut that, you typically end up cutting yourself because you're trying to chase the curls, you're trying to chase the waves, and they can be very hard to control to get that nice point cut, that nice soft point cut in there. But by using the slide glide, we get a nice soft line, pull it back out. I see these loose little hairs in here, and you can tell there are loose hairs because you can see the hair here moving. and I'm going to cut those loose hairs off. Okay. All right. Next subsection, same thing. Taking my subsection, I'm taking the amount of hair I can control, because if I can't control it, it's not going to come out how I want it to. So I'm taking enough hair to control. We'll move her forward a little bit so you can see a little better. Perfect. All right. So I'm taking my next subsection so you can see about how wide it is. I would say that's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. All right. Coming in here, I can see my guide underneath, pulling it up so it's comfortable to cut, so I can move it wherever I need to so I can cut that hair. And then I'm coming in and I'm curving as I close, curving as I close. All right. So again, this is slide glide. So drop slide in the chat box. All right. So curve as I close, pulling this out and cutting those loose hairs. Okay. So now I'm creating a systematic approach by following a guide. So next time she comes in, again, I can write zones 4 and 5, I did slide glide. Zone 7, the first section of zone 7, I did slide glide. So then I know next time she comes in, if she's like, I loved my haircut, can you recreate exactly what you did? I'm able to do so. The challenge with cutting curl by curl is that curl by curl, if her hair is, let's say she comes in June, and I live in Wisconsin, I'm in Milwaukee. So in June in Milwaukee, it is hot, okay? It is hot and humid. I mean, it's like 80, 90 degrees some days. So if she comes in June to get her Mizani Aircut, her hair is going to be very voluminous, very full because of the humidity, all right? We get lots of humidity here in June. Versus if she comes back to have her haircut refreshed, trimmed up, if she comes back in January, February, it's cold. Like right now it is snowing outside. It is cold. And so she's not going to have as much natural volume. Her hair isn't pulling as much moisture and humidity from the elements. And so her hair is not going to be as voluminous most likely. So if I'm cutting curl by curl, when she comes back in June versus July, I don't actually have a really realistic visual of the exact same hair. She might come in January and her hair might be really flat because, again, it's grown out and she's not pulling in moisture from the elements. Versus if she comes in June and it's really humid, she might have just tons of natural volume from the humidity. So if that makes sense, type a yes in the chat box. If you're like, Ashley, I don't get it, type a no. It's okay if you don't get it. That is why I'm here for this hour, to explain to you whatever it is that you need to know. All right. So as I get into the second section of my zone 7, I'm going to have the next slide pulled up because this is going to show the next glide that I'm going to do. Awesome. I see tons of yeses. Perfect. All right. So type in the chat box, what do you notice in this image? From left to right, what do you see with the ends? Okay. Aside from the very last glide, from linear, slide, freehand, exterior, interior, what do you notice from left to right? I'll give you a minute to type it in. Yes, Milwaukee here too. All right, Sarah, I see you in Milwaukee. I love it. It is cold. It is snowing. It is crazy today, but I'm glad to be here. All right, left to right, what do you notice? So I'll give you a little hint. Diffusion of line, okay? So linear is essentially what we do every day behind the chair. If you're working behind the chair as a stylist, linear is what you do with your shears when you are cutting layers, when you are cutting length. Tara said more airy. Let's see here. Millicent said the ends are less blunt. Absolutely. So we just did slides. You can see slide is right next to linear. So it's going to give you that point cut, that soft diffuse line. Now, if you look all the way to the right, we're going to do upward next. So upward is still going to give you more diffusion than slide. So I just wanted you to compare the two, but it's not going to give you quite as much diffusion as, let's say, exterior or interior. So we're still going to get some diffusion, but it's going to be nice, soft, and airy, and a little more diffusion than slide. So take a quick screenshot, or if you, hopefully you got a chance to take a quick screenshot of that, and then we're going to get right to it. Awesome. Softer edges, density change. Yes, Simone. I love that. Perfect. All right. So we're going to go back to our 25 Miracle Milk. So this is essentially our cutting lotion. Okay. Your guest comes in with her hair or his hair in its natural state. All right. When they come in for their appointment, you want them to have a consultation first so they know how to come with their hair prepped. Their hair is going to be shampooed, conditioned, 25 Miracle Milk or 25 Miracle Cream, some sort of light leave-in conditioner, and air dry, all right? So we can see how that hair naturally lives, what it does. Well, because of that, sometimes it can get a little frizzy, right? It could dry a little frizzy because you don't have any product. So by using the 25 Miracle Milk as our cutting aid, as our working product, essentially, that's going to help to kind of moisturize some of the frizz on those ends, because Janet here, she's got a little frizz, but then also make it easier for us to see and control the curls. So we can see them, we can control them, but they're still living in their natural state. So again, I'm going through first. So no matter what glide you're doing, you want to go through first and separate your curls. So again, drop in the chat box, no clumps. We don't want any clumped curls, okay? Because if it's a clump curl, it's going to create a blunt line. And with the Mizani Aircut, we want soft diffused lines. All right, so I'm going back with my Classic Series shear, okay? And I can still, again, see my guide underneath. So with upward says it in the name. We want the hair to go up. We want more volume. So if your guest is having challenges with a triangular shape, right? Or if she kind of has earmuffs at her ears, if it's really heavy at her ears, which can be common with texture types 5 and 6, you want to do upward in zone 7 to give her more volume, all right? So I see my guide underneath, and so upward is similar to curl by curl, but again, I'm still using a guide. I'm not just visually looking at her hair and just cutting whatever which way so that it looks nice for that day. I'm actually looking at my guide underneath, which is for my zone 1, all right? So I'll show you my little mannequin here again. My zone 1 is my frame. It goes all the way around the head, and this is what we use as our guide. Okay, so I'm looking at my zone 1 to determine what I'm cutting my second section of zone 7, the length of that second section. So my first section, I did slide glide, second section, moving into upward. So I'm taking my hair, I'm pinching it right, the curl right below where my guide is, and I'm going to hold it up, almost like I'm about to cheers somebody as I'm sipping tea. I'm going to hold that up, and I'm actually coming from underneath, and I'm curving as I close. All right, so let's get her zoomed in here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. All right, so next section, I can see this is my guide underneath. This is my zone 1. All right, so this nice juicy curl right there, that is my zone 1, that's my guide. This is the hair that I'm cutting. So right here, this is my guide. So I'm literally going to be pinching the curl below it because I know I'm going to be making eye contact and cutting this curl right here. So I'm pinching the curl below, holding it up, and I'm coming from underneath, and I'm curving as I close, okay? And we'll change the angle here so you can see it from another angle so you can see what my hands are doing a little easier. All right, so I see my guide underneath again. So where am I pinching? Drop in the chat box. Where did I say I'm pinching? I see my guide underneath. I'm pinching it, and I'm making eye contact. Where am I pinching? Go ahead and drop that in the chat box. Where am I pinching? So I'm going to continue to move around this second subsection of my zone 7. As I move around, I'm going to be pinching based on where my guide is, pinching that hair, holding it up like I'm cheersing tea. So I'm not twisting it. I'm not moving it back and forth, right? I'm literally pinching. Let's see if anybody got it. So far, nobody's commented, so I'll tell you, right? It's not a pop quiz. I'll let you know the answer. So I'm essentially pinching the curl below. So I'm making eye contact with where my guide is, and then one curl below it, that is where I'm pinching, okay? So I'm pinching one curl below, holding that hair up, and I'm curving as I close to give my upward glide, okay? So essentially what I'm doing as I'm cutting my upward is I am creating short to long, okay? Because essentially as I curve my shears, I'm getting a short to long hair on that strand that I'm cutting, okay? On that subsection that I'm cutting. So what happens in a haircut when you are putting hair short to long? What does that create? Okay, got it. Pinching one curl below. Yes, pinching one curl below. That is exactly how you find your guide. Thanks for dropping that in the chat box. Now, what happens when you make hair, you know, you're taking your section, you're going from short to long, okay? So whether you're cutting straight hair, weavy hair, curly hair, coily hair, if you are placing hair, shorter hair underneath longer hair, what is going to happen? Go ahead and drop that in the chat box. Volume. Yes, Rosario, volume. So I just did my upward in my second subsection of zone 7. And now I'm going to cross check. Okay. So 25 Miracle Milk, massaging it in my hands again to emulsify, and I'm cross checking. All right. So I'm cross checking because I want to make sure there are no random loose hairs that got caught in the hair while it was air drying and while I was doing my cut. Okay. So when I go through to cross check, it's not much. All right. It's not much. You can see that little stray loose hair. That's what I'm going in to cross check. All right. And for her, because I want her to have as much volume as possible, I'm literally cross checking, taking that hair and going back through and just doing upward. All right. Taking that hair, going back through and doing upward. All right. So we have a nice cross check here, and you can see already all this air and volume that is being created in her hair. All right. Because again, actually, I didn't even show you this. So not again. This is her before. All right. So this is how Janet came into us for today's class. This is how she came. So you can see how flat this is here and here, how she's lacking that volume. All right. And she was air dried. So shampooed, condition, and then 25 Miracle Milk to air dry. All right. So now she's getting this nice lift. She's getting this nice volume. That's what we want. All right. So next section here in our zone 7. All right. And what glide are we doing? What are we getting ready to do with this last section, this last section for zone 7? What are we getting ready to do here? Go ahead and drop it in the chat box. What glide? Again, 25 Miracle Milk in my hand here. All right. We're just kind of running across the shaft of the hair, mainly focusing on the ends because that's what has a tendency to be a little frizzier. I'm not over manipulating it when I am going through to put the 25 Miracle Milk on. I am just simply making sure that it has a little bit of saturation to control some of that frizz, but it's not heavily saturated. The hair, by all means, is not wet. If you can see that, it's not wet at all. This is what I just put the Miracle Milk on. It's just gently saturated to get rid of some of the frizz in there. All right. All right, so some people drop slide glide. So Simone, that's what we did first. The slide glide is what we did first, so you're not completely wrong there. Slide glide is when we over-directed forward, found our guide, came up, and we were curving as we were closing. But for this these top 2 sections on zone 7, we're actually doing upward. So yes, Rosario, we are doing upward glide because we want to create as much volume as possible. Awesome. All right, so I put my 25 Miracle Milk on to prep my section. Now I am separating my clumped curls. And why am I separating my clump curls? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Why would I not want to cut a clump of curls? All right. Why would you think that I'm like, you know what? Tons of clumps here. If I cut a clump curl, what happens? Go ahead and drop that in the chat while I find my guide and cut my first subsection. All right. So again, my guide is right here. Move this closer here. All right, my guide is right underneath that nice, beautiful, juicy curl there. And then this is my first subsection, laying it over. So you can see my guide underneath. That's what I want to cut it to. So I'm going to pinch the curl below, make eye contact with that. So when I pull it up, I know where I'm cutting, okay? And let's see, straight line, uneven, straight line, add a hard line. Absolutely, Kelly. So if I were to cut clump curls, I am just adding hard lines all over the place. And then when Janet goes to wear her hair blown out and smooth, she's going to have all these choppy layers. We don't want no choppy layers in Janet's hair. All right, so I'm pinching the curl below. I see my guide underneath here, pinching the curl below, holding it up. I'll make sure I can hold it so you can see what I'm doing. And I made eye contact with my guide where I'm cutting it, and I'm coming from underneath and I'm curving as I close. Okay. So curving as you close, again, that's going to create a short hair to a long hair to push up and give you more bounce and volume. All right. Because the goal with the Mizani Aircut is for your guest, to be able to wear her hair straight or curly, right? If she wants to do a blowout, if she wants to do it in a 2-strand twist out, if she wants to do a braid out, or if she wants to do a natural wash and go. The goal is that with the Mizani Aircut, she can do any of those styles effortlessly and with ease, okay? So if we are creating air in the hair and keeping everything soft, it is easier for her to be able to do that, all right? So I'm just going to pinch and twist this curl here because it was a little frizzy. It was like a little wonky. So I just want to make sure I have control. So a nice little trick is to just kind of pinch and twist just that little end, because again, you can see that creates like more of a curl just to give you a little more control. I see my guide underneath. I'm pinching and I'm pulling it up, and I'm going to do my upward glide coming from underneath, curving as I close. The short hair is pushing the long hair up. Okay. So again, she wants to be able to wear her hair straight or curly. Check. We got it. We got that unlocked. We got that under control. She comes back in. Janet comes back in and she's like, girl, I loved my haircut. I want the same thing. Got it. We have her curl cut card, just like we have her color formula mapped out. We can give her the same color and we can give her the same cut, right? Because it's a systematic approach. We sectioned her hair into zones and we are cutting it systematically so that I can put zone 7, first section, slide glide. Zone 7, section 2 and 3, upward glide. So I know exactly what I did. That also helps because if let's say she comes in and she's like, Janet's like, you know what? You did my haircut. I loved it, but I want more volume. I want to live life voluminously. What can we do to give me more volume? I can look at her curl cut card and say, you know what? I did zone 7 last time, all slide glide. So this time, let's add some upward to give you some more volume. So that's kind of the difference in the change that you can make as far as her cut card to make sure that you're adjusting based on her needs. Okay. So now you can see that this side, as I said, has already been cut. Now she's got some nice volume in here. Now, one way to create even more volume, all right, everybody put in the chat box, more volume. One way to create more volume is to actually alternate each section. So if I wanted to, what I could do in my zone 7, so I'll pull this back up. In my zone 7, okay, my first subsection that I took, what I could have done was did upward in the first subsection, and then, upward in the first section, and then the next section, I could have done slide glide. So like, let's say if she's like, you know what, Janet is like, I don't like a bunch of layers in my hair, but I want volume. I can actually put those short to long hairs, right? The short to long to give her volume in my first subsection, my first section of zone 7 to make sure that she gets lift without seeing it, without seeing the layers. So she's going to see the lift, but she's not going to see those layers that we put in there. So then this section of zone 7, my last 2, I can over direct forward, do my slide glide to give her just some soft layering, trim up that hair without giving her tons of layers on top. Okay, so Simone put more volume. Melissa put gems. Awesome. I'm loving it. So she's got some beautiful hair. All right. So let's recap what we did because we're going to move on to styling in a second. So I just want to quick recap what we did. Janet came in. She came in looking like this. You can see how flat she is, how, she's just like, you know what? I got some volume because my hair is curly, but she wanted more volume in the crown up in here. All right. So we went in, and mainly when your guest wants more volume, he or she is going to see that volume from the hair that's in our zone 7, from the hair that's in the canopy. Okay. Because the canopy, think of like a rainforest. The canopy kind of falls over. So that's what you're seeing when you look at the cut visually. When you see the volume, this is a great place to be able to start to create volume for your guest. All right. So when Janet said she wanted volume, we took zones 4 and 5 and we did slide glide first, right? We over directed, found our guide from zone 1, pulled it up, and we curved as we closed to create that air, that open end, so that she can also wear her hair smooth. Okay. So we went through and we took diagonal back sections and we did that in our zone 4. All right. Next up, our zone 7, our first section of zone 7, we did slide glide again. Okay. So using this zone 1 as our guide, we over directed because over directing is just going to, again, help that shorter hair push up that longer hair. All right. If we're over directing, that means that section is going to be a little bit longer than our zone 1, which is great because then that short hair in zone 1 is going to push up that longer hair. All right. So our first section of zone 7, we did slide glide, over directed, pulled it up, curved as we closed. All right. Our next 2 sections. All right. So we took a horseshoe, again, horseshoe parting. Our next 2 subsections, we did upward. All right. Upward's one of my favorites because it just gives you so much volume. And just to recap, when we did upward, we pinched 1 curl below, made eye contact with the curl that we want to cut, held it up, and we curved and closed. All right. So again, bring it closer so you can just see that. We pinch, like let's say if I want it to do a little upward on this piece here, we pinch one curl below where we want it. So if this is my guide here, if I'm like, okay, I want this upward piece to be as short as this piece here, right above it, I'm going to pinch one curl below, make eye contact with the curl I want to cut, holding it up, all right? And I'm coming from underneath, curving as I close, okay? Because that's going to create your shorter to longer piece of hair, which will then give you more volume, okay? So that is what we did for Janet here. We did slide glide on zone 4, slide glide the first section of zone 7, and then we went in with upward. All right. Could you do a whole haircut with upward? You could, but again, as I mentioned, upward is similar to curl by curl cutting. Curl by curl cutting can be very challenging to replicate if you're doing it on the whole head. Okay, we did it in a very controlled area. So as a result, when she comes back in, we're going to be able to know, okay, those last 2 sections of zone 7, we did upward. I can see where I did that. It's a little bit more controlled. Now, slide glide, could you take and do slide glide for the whole haircut? Absolutely, you definitely could, because slide glide, you're following a guide. Again, it's very similar to point cutting, so it's going to give you a soft, diffused line, some nice air. Okay, all right, so that is Janet's haircut. Or aircut, rather, if you will. All right, so we can see she's got nice fullness, okay? Now let's talk about if Janet wants more fullness, because again, we just finished her haircut. So she can leave out of the salon with her hair like this if she wants, but if Janet's like, you know what, I want to try out some more volume, I don't do that for myself at home, what can we do? She's already been shampooed and conditioned and let her hair air dry with the Mizani 25 Miracle Milk. So in order to create more volume, we would either want to wet her hair down, apply product that's going to add more volume, something like the Mizani Perfect Coil Oil Gel. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like. It's an oil gel, so it's going to help to define her curl, add more volume, or we can take what we have and work with it to build volume in. So we'll move her over so I can show you how to do that. All right, because I need to get close to my dryer. So for that, as I mentioned, zone 7 is where a lot of the volume lives. So if we know zone 7 is where the volume lives, that's where we're going to focus when we're taking her dry style and creating more volume. So I'm going to go ahead and part her zone 7 again. So zone 7 is parted from the recession here, okay? Depending on the density, you might go a little above, you might go a little below, but it's from the recession here to the back, and then we section that off from the top of the ear, okay? So top of the ear. So from the recession to the back to the top of the ear. And I'll actually pull up the next slide just so you can see exactly what the partings are and you can take a screenshot of that. Lori said, what about the back? Great question, Lori. So I'll get to that in just a second. I just want everybody to take a quick screenshot of this so you can see zones 4 and 5 are at the recession, right? And then back and then to the top of the ear. So that is how you're going to find your zone 4 and 5. And then zone 7 is top of the ear all the way around the top of the head. And it's the front. Okay. So we can pull that slide down just so I can kind of show you again on our little foam head where zone 7. All right. So this comes all the way top of the ear, all the way around the head for our zone 7 and our zone 4 and 5. Okay. So I reparted my zone 7 on this side of her hair. And this is how we're going to create some more volume. We're actually going to subsection this into 2 subsections. Based on the density of the hair, you might need more than 2. Based on density, you might need 5. You know, it really just depends on how dense the guest's hair is. All right. And Lori, I didn't forget about your question. We'll get to that in just a minute. And I'm going to go in with the Mizani Cocoa Dew. And I'm literally going to spray some Cocoa Dew underneath. All right. And I'm going to come in with my Samvia Pro Ionic Dryer and my Deep Bowl Diffuser. And I'm going to go in and diffuse. And I'm just going to heat up underneath. And I should say, because I don't know if you can hear me while I'm drying, by using the Deep Bowl Diffuser instead of a concentrator, you're able to set that volume in there without creating frizz. All right. We don't want to create any unwanted frizz. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly heat this up. All right, perfect. And then I'm dropping it down, all right? And I'm going to go in and massage my hand in there. Okay. You have to make sure the hair is completely dry, the product is completely dry while you're doing this, so you can already see we're able to build some volume in there. Next subsection, same thing. It's as simple as that. We're going to go in with our Mizani Cocoa Dew. Cocoa Dew is a pre-styler and restyler. So what that means is you can apply this with your product that you're currently using before you actually diffuse or let your hair air dry, okay? And then you can also apply it after. So you can apply it when the hair is fully wet before you style it initially, but then you can also do what I'm doing and apply it afterwards. So you can apply it at the root to add volume, or you can apply it just literally all over to refresh your curls on day 2 or 3, all right? So I'm gonna go back in with my Pro Ionic dryer and deep bowl diffuser, and I'm just going to heat this up to set the product, all right? All right, and what did I say you want to do? You want to make sure you do before you go in and massage with your hands. What did I want? What did I say? Because I just want to make sure that you know when you're doing this to add volume, it's really important to make sure what is dry in the hair before you go in there. All right. Does it have a hold factor? Absolutely. So we divide our products into slip and grip, right? So Cocoa Dew is going to have grip. It's going to have some hold to it so that it's going to help to keep that volume in there and really set it in there. And I'm just going to bring her closer so you can already see this side that we just cut versus this side. You can already see that volume being created in there. All right. So I'm going to go in with my hands and massage right where I just put the Cocoa Dew. So you want to make sure that the Cocoa Dew is completely dry before you go in and massage, all right? You want to make sure it's completely dry because you don't want to create any frizz. Yes, roots must be dry, absolutely. Yes, yes. All right, and now you can see, let me step out of the way, move her over. So you can see the difference now between Janet's style on this side versus this side, all right? So you can see she's got some really nice volume in here. So that's what makes it easy to add volume to your air cut, okay? So does she have volume? Does she have air on this side? Yeah, she definitely does. You can already see more volume being built on this side right here. Now, if you want even more volume than this, okay, so one step higher, you're gonna take your Cocoa Dew again and literally, turn her forward here, literally just take and mist that hair. Because as I said, this is a styler and restyler, okay? So it's a pre-styler and restyler. So I'm restyling her hair by literally just misting that Cocoa Dew all over because Miss Janet wants some super, super volume, all right? And then I'm going in with my deep bowl diffuser and my Pro Ionic dryer, and I'm going to heat this product up to set it, okay? Now, one thing to note, I was very gentle when I was touching the hair. If I'm applying product and the product is making the hair wet, I don't want to over manipulate with my fingers because that's going to cause frizz, okay? So Janet is going to tip her head over for me so I can just go in. All right. All right, so we got her nice and diffused here. So we are restyling her hair to, again, add even more volume, okay? So she's got even more volume in here now, and you can still go in as long as that product is dry and massage at the root. All right, so my clients love when I do this because they're like, oh, that feels so good. It's like a nice scalp massage. So massage at the root to build even more volume, okay? So now we have our before and after of Janet's styling. So again, she came in with her hair shampooed, conditioned, all right? So shampooed, conditioned, and air dried with the Mizani 25 Miracle Milk. So for the shampoo and conditioner, I used the True Textures Moisture Replenish Shampoo, and then I used the Moroccan Clay Steam Mask. Both of these products are amazing for curls, coils, zigzag coils, for hair that's got texture that has a tendency to be dry. They're extremely moisturizing. And then again, we went in with the 25 Miracle Milk and we detangled, let her air dry. We went in and did her air cut, and now literally all I added was that cocoa dew just to refresh and reboost those curls to give her more volume, okay? Because she wants kind of more of that rounded shape on top here, less of the slightly lower, like kind of oval shape on the side as she has here. All right, so 2 different ways to add volume. You can add volume with your air cut by using your upward glide, or you can add volume with products. Now, our goal behind the chair is to make it easier for your guests to get volume. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that last slide there so we can just see a before and after of a real person. So you can see the difference in volume, okay? So you can see her before. She has some weight that's kind of like at her jawline. She doesn't really have much volume on top versus her after, which is nice and full and voluminous. Okay, so you can definitely see the before and after and how much volume she has there. And now just to reference the question about what about the back. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you are interested in learning more about this air cut, if you're interested in seeing more of it, follow me on Instagram. Okay, my social is Ash_HairBarbie. Follow me on Instagram and check out the Mizani Texpert Academy. So the Mizani Aircut, we offer 3-hour demos to show you kind of more cohesively, more in full, in detail what the aircut is about. But really, in order to get certified to do the Mizani Aircut and to provide it full scale, you're going to want to take one of our 2-day in-person certifications. Okay, so again, today I just wanted to give you a really quick inside look of what the Mizani Aircut is, 2 of the glides that you can start using today behind the chair that can help you add more volume for your guest without overwhelming you. You know, I only had an hour with all of you lovely people today. So if I tried to go through everything in an hour, it's kind of like the road runner running up and down the highway. And I don't know how much would translate and how much would be easy to understand. So I'm hoping that in breaking down our zone 4 and our zone 7 and how to create volume with the air cut using our slide glide and our upward glide and our classic series shear, right? That helped you see what you can start doing behind the chair today. And for those of you who you're like, I'm watching this and I'm not a hairstylist, but I'm into curls, so that's why I'm checking it out. Now you know what products you can use at home to give you volume immediately. Because as I said, all she had when she came in was the Mizani 25 Miracle Milk, okay? 25 Miracle Milk for all different texture types, very easy to use, very user-friendly, great technology. It's gonna keep the hair light, airy, and allow it to just dry in its natural state. Then we went in with our cocoa dew, okay? And the cocoa dew, this is literally my favorite product for refreshing curls on day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, however you prefer, however long you prefer to wear your curly styles. But it's also great for on day 1, after your guest comes in the salon and you do the slide glide on her, you do the upward glide on her, you can just simply give her this cocoa dew refresh and she can be on her way. So she comes in with her hair already washed and air dried so you can see her natural curl pattern, see and assess where she needs more volume, where she needs less volume, and then you can add even more volume when you're finished if that's what she prefers. And as I said, Janet came in and she's like, that's what I want. That's what I prefer. So that's what we did for her today. Let's see here.
Ashley, wonderful job. The silhouette is stunning to look at.
Oh, thank you. Janet, she loves it. She's like, yes, girl, I'm feeling myself. So
no Christmas tree hair here.
Exactly. No triangles, no Christmas trees. She's just got a nice, beautiful shape.
Totally. I loved watching the upward glide too in the canopy. It like gave volume and it was such a soft, diffuse technique that was so cool to see. And the immediate gratification you get when you're done with that glide.
Yes. And just short to long, just knowing that's going to push and give you more volume. And again, as I said, 2 glides that are easy that you can start using today behind the chair. And when you do it, tag me in your work. I want to see it. When you share it in your stories, tag me, tag Sam Via Hair. We want to see what you're creating with your upward glide and with your slide glide. So be sure to share with us.
Yes. Thank you so much.